Well, I've been speaking to Calum Chase, who's a best-selling writer and global speaker on AI, and I began by asking him if he believed that people's lives are better as a result of artificial intelligence.
Yes, I do. And I can just think of my own life. It used to be that travelling across London, for instance, or travelling across any part of the UK, you didn't know how long it was going to take. You would get stuck in traffic jams, and that was quite stressful. Now, thanks to Google Maps, you know to the minute when you're going to arrive. You know the best, most efficient journey to take, and which way to go if you want to avoid paying tolls, etc. And if there's an accident, they divert you. So that's really a quite substantial advantage. And Google search in my lifetime has gone from not existing at all to offering us something really pretty close to omniscience, which I think is miraculous. So just a couple of little examples of how I think AI already generates enormous benefits for us.
And it's interesting because many people perhaps don't make the link between what the examples you've just given and artificial intelligence. In their minds, it creates all this robotic images and a sense perhaps that things will be out of our control. Are there limits to what artificial intelligence can do?
In the sense that there are limits to what can happen in the physical universe, yes. But we are just at the beginning of the AI story. We're on this exponential growth process because computers get twice as powerful every 18 months, and that's not going to stop for quite a long time. And when you're on an exponential curve, every step in an exponential process is equivalent to the sum of all the previous steps. So however impressive what happened in the past was, what's going to happen in the future is much, much more exciting. So it's got a lot further to go, and robots will appear. We will, at some point, we don't know when, have domestic robots. Another form of robots that we're going to see probably sooner is self-driving cars. They're quite close to being ready for prime time, but not quite yet, and we don't know how long it's going to take to do that final bit. But within 20 years, quite possibly within 15 years, humans will not be allowed to drive on roads because we're just not good enough at it. So there's a lot further to go.
And is it the case that it's already making jobs done by humans extinct, or is that largely still to come?
It is largely still to come. We're seeing the very early stages of it, and we don't know how far it will go. My own view is that we should take the possibility of very serious technological unemployment seriously, but it won't happen for probably 20 or 30 years. Machines will take over some of our existing jobs. You can see that they're clearly going to take over driving jobs. They're going to take over jobs in call centres and retail and warehouses. But as long as there are some things that humans can do which machines can't do, there will be lots of jobs for humans because there will be enough demand in the system to create lots of work in those remaining areas. The question is whether one day machines will be able to do almost all the things that we do for money. And I think it is definitely possible they will. I think we should figure out how to make that outcome not just survivable, but really great. And I think we could.
How? Because how would people earn an income in those circumstances?
You've put your finger on exactly what I think is the big problem. People usually think that the big problem is meaning. How will we find meaning in a post-jobs world? But I think you're right. I think income is the big problem. And I think that fundamentally we have to accept that if there is a jobless future in which half the population or maybe more is unemployable, there's going to have to be a transfer of income and or wealth from the people who own the assets, and I'm looking at Mark Zuckerberg, to the rest of us. Now, if prices remain high in the sense that things cost quite a lot at the moment, that will be an onerous tax, and rich people are pretty good at hiding their money. So I think what we have to do, and I know this is a bit counterintuitive, I think we need to navigate our way towards an economy of abundance, an economy in which the cost of all the goods and services that you need for a rich life are very, very cheap. And then taxing the rich people won't be onerous, and hopefully they won't all run off to the Cayman Islands.
Does that sound like communism? Does that sound like undermining capitalism as we've known it over the last number of decades?
I hope it doesn't, and it's not what I intend, because, the one thing we know about communism is any form of central control leads to massive inefficiency and lots of corruption. I don't think we need to jettison the market, and as long as there is still a certain cost for all the goods and services that we acquire, the market can still prevail.
But would you agree that it does pose a big challenge to capitalism, to democracy, to how societies function, and the level of challenge? What do you believe that artificial intelligence represents for those things?
It definitely does. On a scale of 1 to 10, this is an 11. And we're not thinking about it yet. And that involves all of us. We all have to think about this, not least so that our politicians think about it, because at the moment they're not.
Do you think people should not be afraid of what's to come with regard to artificial intelligence?
It's a slightly awkward thing that whenever I give talks, the main response I tend to get from people is, oh, that's a bit scary, and I wish it wasn't, and I think it probably means I'm doing something wrong. I would like people to feel the same way that I do, which is very excited about the wonderful opportunity, the wonderful world we can create, as long as we overcome the very significant challenges. So I wouldn't want to underplay the challenges, but the possible futures are incredible. A future in which machines do all the jobs could be a future in which humans do whatever we want to do. We could have a second renaissance. And a future of superintelligence, which is further down the road, again, could be extraordinarily wonderful. So I'd like people to be primarily excited, but aware of the challenges that we need to meet.
And of course, there are big ethical challenges as well involved in AI. And looking ahead into the future, do you believe someday AI will display all human-like characteristics?
Whether it will be human-like is obviously an open question, but I do think that we are going to one day create something called an artificial general intelligence. At the moment, we have AIs which are superhuman in some limited respect. So there's no human who can beat a chess computer. And there's no human who can beat a top Go computer. But those computers, those systems, are completely rubbish at everything else. They're dumb as a rock. One day, it seems to me most likely, and most AI researchers agree with this, that we will eventually create an artificial general intelligence which has all the cognitive abilities of an adult human. It can beat us or equal us right across the waterfront. And because machines get twice as good every 18 months or so, it will quickly go on to be a superintelligence. But that is quite a long way away. I mean, there's a few people who think it could happen in the next 20 years or so, but most people think it's at least 50 years away. So there's time to prepare for it.
Yeah, and do you think in that scenario, should a robot deserve all the same legal rights and personal dignities that humans currently enjoy?
I think a robot would deserve those rights if it could be shown to be a moral agent. And what that means really is that it is conscious. I think it's hard to imagine an entity, however intelligent, however capable, but not conscious. It's hard to imagine that being a moral agent. If we one day create a machine which we have conversations with, and let's say over a period of a month, we cannot convince ourselves that it is not conscious. It tells us that it's conscious. It discusses with us its conception of red versus blue in the same way that we do with each other. And after a month, we just cannot fault it. We cannot find evidence that it's not conscious. Yes, I think at that point, we'd have to say, yes, this entity really is conscious, and therefore it's a moral agent.
And in the event of creating a conscious being, is there a risk that we will just recreate all our own worst attributes and obsessions?
I would argue that as humans have become more intelligent, better informed, better educated, we've become better humans. The level of violence in society is considerably less than it was in the Middle Ages, say. So if we create a machine which is more intelligent than us, there's a reasonably decent proposition that it will be better behaved than us. But we don't know. We might create this AGI by reverse engineering the human brain, in which case it will probably think in ways fairly similar to us. Or we might create it by developing our current AI systems enormously. I mean, they're a long way from AGI at the moment, but we might continue down that track and create a form of intelligence which is quite alien, and in which case we have no idea how it will behave.
Exactly. Could you program it to think that it is God?
Well, modern AI isn't programmed in that sense. It learns. The modern AI systems are a machine learning system, and literally they do what they say on the tin. The machine learns. So we wouldn't really program it to think that. But who knows? If it woke up one day and looked around and realized it was way the smartest thing on the planet, it might decide it was God.
So how do we stay in control?
Yeah, now that's a tricky question which some very bright people are grappling with. My own view is that once, assuming we create a machine considerably smarter than us, we will not be able to control it any more than the dog control us. Admittedly, cats can control us, but they're a very special creature. Our best bet is to set up its initial conditions so that it really, really likes humans and also understands us better than we understand ourselves. I think that's our best chance to benefit from the arrival of superintelligence rather than be somewhat damaged by it.
That's cat lover Calum Chase, best-selling writer, global speaker on artificial intelligence. And there's a story of artificial intelligence in